Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. I have been having a stray thought go through my head about how a lot of science fiction series depict future food as bland, as unappetizing, as something inferior to the real thing. And as we're getting to the era of 3D printed food, I wonder if this prediction is going to turn out right. Robocop and the Zentradi from Robotech are fed a nutrient paste. And it's not supposed to taste good. It's just there to keep you going and your vitals going. As a matter of fact, when the Zentradi visit the humans for the first time and get handed orange juice, the whole concept is foreign to them. What do you mean you take this living thing, squeeze it out, and then you just drink it? Now, the Zentradi are a warrior culture that are bred for, you know, committing war crimes, basically, and they're not supposed to enjoy eating much. They're supposed to be out there practicing what they're doing, stuff like that. Um, Food is not supposed to be particularly enjoyable for them. But it's all they've known their entire lives, so they don't know enough to rebel. I think the Jim Hadar in Star Trek, they exist entirely on Ketracel White. I think I recall one of the episodes of Deep Space Nine where they need that drug and nothing else. That might be an interesting future development. I mean, the Jetsons had pills for everything. But that was a 1960s, even a 1950s thing. They thought they would have pills for everything. If you go back into Fireball XL5, instead of helmets, they had air pills. Seriously, you'd take one of these pills and it would allow you to breathe in space. Now, in the modern day, we know this is ridiculous, but that was the attitude coming from back in. The Jetsons had their pills to keep them from starving. They could have a roast beef dinner in the form of a pill. So you don't actually know what a roast beef dinner tastes like, but they know that pill is satisfying. They're still getting some satisfaction from it. But we're talking about a time where, 1960s, early 1970s, everything was in its infancy, and a pill was radical. Um, Dr. McCoy's sonic injector is actually available today, but it's still in the test phases and it's extremely expensive, which is why you're going to get needles for the next while. Sorry, that's just the case. But back to food. Let's go back to Star Trek. In um, The Next Generation and DS9, and I think on Voyager 2, they mentioned that the food doesn't taste like the real thing. There's a noticeable difference. Riker is cooking scrambled eggs, and even though he's not a very good cook, they notice that it is a quality ingredient. I guess the modern day equivalent would be in caviar. There's cheap sturgeon caviar, and there's expensive sturgeon caviar. Champagne, there's sparkling wine, and there's sparkling wine. Apples, I happen to love apples, don't like Granny Smith much. Yellow apples, I don't mind, but I would still rather have that, juicy red delicious. I can't remember the original Robert Heinlein Starship Troopers, but I seem to recall, first of all, it's a fascinating transition when they plant their brain into the robot bodies. But they had something nutrient paste like that kept them going. But back to Star Trek, um, that was why Neelix, even though he was a necessary evil, he cooked a lot of things from home because the ingredients weren't available. Meanwhile, on the Starship Enterprise, the flagship, you can get William Riker bringing eggs aboard. Um, Scotty mentioning that none of their alcohol had anything to it and wound up getting his own stash provided to him. So there are definitely differences in future food by their own admission. There may be other examples, but I think, all those stack up nicely. And as I said, we're entering this 3D food printing, which I would have no problem eating. It's lab grown. It's probably not going to be exactly the same, but give it time to refine itself. Then I want to see, go to Chef Ramsay's restaurant and have one of their steaks, chicken, trout, whatever the hell they're cooking and it holds my fancy. Give me one of those and give me the 3D printed side by side. I would love to taste the difference. It'd be hard because, Chef Ramsay has so many years of experience that the replicator, the 3D printer, cannot possibly, duplicate. But given the same ingredients, I'm sure Chef Ramsay can come up with something basic. After all, that's how he does his tutorials. He doesn't include all of his flares and flashes and things that he does. He comes up with home recipes where you can feel like $1,000,000. I'm wondering though, because of the collective unconscious, this had to come from somewhere. This idea that future food will not be as good. And turns out this is actually something we have experienced as a race before. I'm fortunate enough to live with a Filipina. And their ideas of food are sometimes a little outlandish to me. Most of the stuff they make is pretty tasty, but the ingredients are all pretty darn basic. She does this thing with sardines, and yeah, it tastes perfectly fine. I wouldn't have come up with it. At the same token, she's always making or begging for me to make fish balls. Now, fish balls are easy. Can of tuna, a little bit of mustard, a little bit of mayonnaise. You put them all together, you fry them up. You got yourself some fish balls, fish cakes if you like, if you want to squish them down. And to her, that's something interesting and exotic. Now, we had trout the other day, and it was incredibly tasty. You don't overwhelm it with too many herbs and spices and stuff. You let the trout stand on its own. Now, how does that compare to a salmon? You can't compare them. They're two completely different fish. Salmon is very fatty. So you put a mouthful in your mouth and it is just beyond belief. Crab, lobster. I'm going to take them because there are imitation crab and lobster floating around in the market. Imitation crab it's pollock. And I don't mean the insult to Polish people. I mean that's the actual fish. And it's wrapped up and they put flavoring and stuff in it. Not the same as actual crab meat. Mayonnaise. Ketchup. Let's do ketchup too. Mayonnaise and ketchup are ridiculously easy to make. Ketchup, you need some tomato paste, a little bit of sugar, you're done. Mayonnaise. Some eggs, some vinegar, whisk it together heavily, a little bit of salt in there, you're done. But take a look at the labels of what you're doing. Your mayonnaise has a lot more ingredients than eggs, vinegar, and salt. They add in sugar. They add in food dyes. I don't know why, it's already an attractive shade of white, but somebody thought they could do better. And the thing is, everything you add in is going to change the chemical reaction. It's going to change the taste, the way it feels on your mouth. Ketchup. Tomatoes, right? Do you know originally ketchup was mushroom ketchup? Well, that's what we call it today. Back in the old days, they just called it ketchup. Now I've made my own mushroom ketchup. It's actually very flavorful. But you say ketchup today, and you're probably going to get a bottle of Heinz. And I'm going to pick on Heinz because you can go almost anywhere in the world and find Heinz ketchup. Compared to homemade ketchup, It's not the same. And think about this. In the past 50 years, we have been discouraging people from making their own stuff at home to save time and to be economical. Because let's be honest, you buy if you buy ketchup or if you buy mayonnaise, it's going to sit in your fridge, your cold cellar, wherever it is you happen to keep your own stuff until you need it again, and you're going to need it again. So that we've sold people on the convenience of it. Does it taste as good as the stuff you make at home? No, absolutely not. I'm one of the few that makes my own French sauces. And everybody agrees they taste way better when I make them because there's a time investment and stuff like that. But if you're making steak au frite, you spend a lot of time whisking an egg and adding butter and making it so that is it Bernaise? I think it's the Bernaise. That Bernaise sauce tastes special. Or you could go buy it with all the chemicals and additives and stuff like that. So I think this is one prediction from science fiction that's going to come true. We're going to be getting more into the soy-based stuff, which I give them credit. Some of that meat-free stuff is actually pretty good. I know how to make what do you want to call them? Just basically sticks that you fry up. You add some stuff on them, and they taste pretty good with some basic, soy-based bean meal, whatever it is. I could probably become a better vegetarian cook, but as we move more towards more ethically sourced ingredients, I think people are going to notice the difference. But due to pricing, because you're not going to get people to try this if it's $20 for a chicken McNugget. You got to be able to come down and fight the market at its price point. And I also don't think, well, there's always going to be purists. Look, right now, people are going on culinary adventure trips. There's still people hunting down lions and tigers and bears just so they can put a frickin' trophy on their wall. Moose, they get a permit and people hunt this down. Now, I've had moose meat. It is decent, but I don't think I'd buy it. Somebody gave me some, and because they're a prolific hunter. So, ethically I can say I didn't kill it, I'm just helping getting rid of it. Because it'd be a shame to waste it. But there is a big difference already in the world. Sushi. You come over here and have sushi, and it's very, very different from what you get to Japan. In Japan, if you ask for spicy mayonnaise or cream cheese, they'll put you in a little boat and gently push you out to sea, which I personally agree with. I don't want my sushi with that crap in it. Give me the fish and the rice. That's what I'm here for. But things modify as they go on, and the more popular they get, the more they get away from the base material and the more compromises they have to make. While ketchup from Heinz may be basically the same the world over, samosas, very different. Donairs, oh my gosh, is there a difference in taste in a donair? On the East Coast, where they're in every pizza joint, they taste fantastic. Here, where I currently am, they don't have a clue how to make a donair. They get the sauce wrong, they get everything wrong. Shawarma, I've had great shawarma places and places that I'm really afraid of ever going there again. But do I recognize it as shawarma? Yes. I just know which places are slightly better and slightly worse. So think about that. Food is one of the simplest things to mess with. And you know what? If you add enough sugar, salt, and fat, you can make anything taste good. And that's what we've already been exposed to with companies. But when we go back to a more healthy, although lab grown alternative, there's going to be a lot of people that notice the difference. I'm sure Captain Jean-Luc Picard, when he says tea Earl Grey hot, notices the difference in bitterness compared to what he's normally used to, because unless he specifically adjusted his settings, which he probably has, the replicator can only do so much to still give you the taste that you want and make it palatable for everybody else. These old shows are correct. Food is not going to taste as good in the future unless you have a reliable source. Hey, you got a friend in Russia and you want some vodka and you want some caviar, you're probably going to do better importing it from there than whatever you have on your local supermarket shelf, even if it's a specialty Russian supermarket. And that's just the way things are. But it's amazing how far back in time they realized there would be a difference, especially, like I said, during the 1950s and 1960s with their pills. I doubt we're ever going to get to that, although we might have some sort of combination meal, just like we have nutrition bars today. But whereas you have a little fruit roll up, sorry, I couldn't think of anything else, and you eat it slowly throughout the day and it keeps you nourished. That may be the next frontier in human food. But with that, I hope you have a good meal today or any day. And we wish to thank you for joining us for the Silverlight Show. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, because sharing is caring. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And if you have, thank you very much. Don't forget to click the notification bell down below, because that way you'll be informed every time we have a new show uploaded. And we hope you have a fantastic day.